Evening, everyone. I'm Ramya Nair from Pro Energy Media. Welcome to the Meeting of Minds presented by Belden and powered by Pro Energy Media. The theme for this session is Digitalization for NextGen Automotive Manufacturing, and we look forward to a very insightful discussion today. Our supporting partners are MITI NASSCOM Center of Excellence, C4I4, CMTI, IIT Indore Drishti CPS Foundation, and IIT Madras AMTDC. Thank you all for sparing time from your busy schedule and joining us today.
The theme of this session, Digitalization for Next-Gen Automotive Manufacturing, is very interesting because most of my life, in fact, 1/3 of my life, I was not exposed to digital. I lived in an analog world. The first digital experience I had perhaps was when I used the FX82 Casio calculator for my engineering diploma. The first vehicle I drove was an Ambassador Mark III, I think, Ambassador Mark III, which had, not many of you would have seen those hand gears in the steering and not the floor gear. And perhaps the only electronics in that vehicle was high-tech electronics was Jugaad technology cassette deck, which I had installed there to listen to the music while I drive. So from there on, the automotive industry has come a long, long way. And today, if you see the automotive industry, how it is poised for further growth, currently it contributes to almost 8% of India's GDP. Almost 48% of India's manufacturing GDP is contributed by auto and auto component sector. And it is constantly evolving at a very, very rapid pace. It is driven, these changes are driven by technology, lightweighting, sustainability, decarbonization, the mix of fuels, the regulation, the consumer demand. My first question to Sanjeev Kumar Jain would be, since Sanjeev comes from Krishna Maruti Group, my first question to you, Sanjeev, is in this ever-changing automotive industry and a pace which is very rapid, what are the future trends that you are seeing and what initiatives are you taking to stay ahead of these trends?
Over to thank you. Thank you, first of all, to all the panelists and Belden Group. As you rightly said, that the automotive industry is changing very rapidly when we talk about any changes happening into the world. The automotive industry is looking into a drastic change from the repetitive manufacturing sort of thing to an agile, customer-oriented industry, which previously we were making a single model throughout the day and then that was being produced. Today, the customer demands are changing on a fly. Today, somebody is asking for an X model to be produced. The next moment, the next model is there. The line changes which are happening onto the production lines is so frequent that previously, when we were doing repetitive manufacturing, the production things and everything was very fine. Today, we have to really get a schedule from our OEM 2 hours the moment the car is there in their paint shop that this particular model is going to be produced in another 90 minutes. Be ready with the parts which is belonging to this color, this model, this variant. So you have to be on your toes to really see that the line stoppages at your OEM doesn't happen because of the wrong sequence of a part being delivered to them to that particular part. So we are making our system so agile that we have to be very fast in changeovers. We have to be seeing that exact part which is required for that particular color, particular variant has to be online at that particular moment in that sequence. So that when we send the material based onto the sequence which is happening onto the production line of the OEM, there is no mismatch because any mismatch will create a stoppage onto the OEM's line. So those types of changes which are going to happen, so agile for that particular part to be done. Apart from that, the traceability of the products which are going to happen because of the recall features which are happening into the industry, you have to be very careful what particular material was used in that particular part which is being produced by you. which date, which batch, which supplier it belongs to, so that in case of any issue arising at the OEMs, and we are able to pinpoint which particular material on that particular day, which schedule shift was being used, so that at least we are able to pinpoint and only that particular things can be recalled instead of doing all the things recall of that particular period. So these are the major important things which are happening. Apart from that, previously, the IT and OT, as Gaurav was talking about, was working in silos. So today we are trying to get these things converged together so that both these systems talk to each other, and we are able to give a faster delivery, faster decision making to the business for any issues coming into the shop floor part of it, so that that can be taken care immediately. Because automotive component manufacturing organizations, they work on a razor thin margins. To be very precise, we don't have that much margins that in case of any rejection coming up in the plant because of XYZ reason, we can't take that particular thing. So we have to take very fast decision making has to be there into that particular part. So industry 4.0 adoption is happening into the industry now, because previously we were having lines which were having very old machines. Now we have modernization is happening in all the lines with the putting all the latest technologies which are available into it, with the complete dashboarding, with alerts and everything coming into the system. So these are the few changes I think so which we, the auto industry, is looking into at later we will discuss that.
Yeah, very well articulated, Sanjeev. In fact, the word agility you use many times, and it is so important. Mr. Bhuvan Loda is from Mahindra and Mahindra, and Mr. Loda, the uh, the kind of range of different vehicles you make is so complex, and the variants, and then as we heard from Sanjeev, that customer demand, and there are so many different combinations. So this complexity is enormous and mind-boggling. So what are the things what you are doing to stay ahead of these trends?
Thank you for having me here, Manish. Great to be in this panel. Um, from an OEM perspective, of course, you're right. Complexity is increasing. But if you look at the bigger picture, the automotive industry itself is undergoing a massive transformation. The entire industry, everything is changing. Um, our customer expectations are changing. Like Mr. Sanjeev was mentioning, no longer do we compete with other auto players. We compete with all sorts of brands that customers have on their mobile phones. We compete with expectations that Amazon has set for delivery. We compete with the customer experience expectations that e-commerce companies are setting from the call centers and so on. So the customer expectation, both from a service delivery and also now from a product perspective in India, is changing. People are becoming conscious of the quality of fit and finish, the quality of paint, the longevity of variable parts, the NVH levels of the vehicle, and the overall design and beauty of the vehicle itself is becoming more and more important to our customers. So in that sense, the expectation of the customer is changing. But that's only one part. The supply chains are changing also. With rising geopolitical issues and the overall shift in the narrative of becoming more Atmanirbhar, reducing dependency on China, creating more and more redundancy in our supply chain to reduce over dependence on certain parts of the world, is shifting the supply chains also. That is also not sufficient because our product is also changing, right? The vehicle itself is changing. We are moving from our traditional petrol and diesel vehicles more and more towards electric vehicles, which means there is a significant change in number of parts that are used to build a vehicle, the amount of software that is required to operate a vehicle, and the kind of people and experiences needed in order for us to serve a customer after a vehicle is sold. So, everything is changing, and technology is going to play a huge role in making sure that we are able to meet the customers where they are, give them the product that they aspire for, and meet all the expectations when it comes to servicing them and giving delightful experiences. Towards that end, there are multiple initiatives that are required to be undertaken. The biggest ones, of course, have to be about generating superior customer experience with ensuring the right quality of the product, all the way from quality of the body to the quality of software. Everything has to be top notch, and hence quality systems and fault tolerance is very important to monitor and track. It is also important to ensure that our operations are efficient, more efficient than ever. Because with large expectation on quality and increasing scale of operations, efficiency becomes more important because our Indian customer remains to be value conscious. Then at the same time, there are also significant initiatives going on in ensuring that our supply chains become more predictable and connected. No longer can we rely on people's judgment on whether a certain material is going to arrive on time or not. We need to have the right systems in order for us to have the confidence that the production will continue as planned, and the date that has been promised to the customer, which might be very far out in several weeks, will still be met. And a small change in that could lead to a lot of ripple effects across the supply chain. And hence, we are making large initiatives to make our supply chain connected, make our suppliers more enabled to feed data real time, and create some sort of transparency inside the manufacturing value chain itself. So a lot of efforts going on, and I think this is just the beginning. In order to see the full transformation of the industry itself, a lot more is to come. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Bhuvan, for touching base upon very critical points of customer experience, quality and supply chain issues, and how it is the complexity is increasing, how it can be addressed. When I started my career, I was talking about those ambassador and Fiat days. Customer की व्याख्या थी जो कष्ट से मरता है वो customer है. But we have come a long way, and then since then, as Bhuvan said, the competition is with the new age companies such as e-commerce, Amazon. They're setting up higher bars or higher benchmarks for customer satisfaction. Anshum, I would love to come to you because you have an experience which varies across different construction equipment as well as automotive. You set up greenfield and brownfield projects not only in India but also in the US. Would you please share, with your wide experience, some successful case studies of use cases of practices of digitalization in auto manufacturing, and how did the effective implementation really help? Could you, Prashantji, could you throw light on data analytics in optimizing both efficiency and quality?
Yeah, thank you, Manishji, for having me here, and so glad to be part of this panel. And as I was listening to my co-panelist, how the automotive industry is transforming and how the expectations are increasing, and some of them are our customers, and we can also feel that how the complete trend is changing in the customer. No longer are the days of ambassador with hand gears. So the customer expectations are changing really drastically. And we as a tier one suppliers to automotive value chain, I think we also have to gear up to those expectations. And in that, digitization, as we know, is very, very important and key paradigm shift which is happening. And in that also, as you rightly pointed out, and I'm so glad that you brought this question about data analytics. So I feel traditionally the manufacturing area or the shop floor was not so data literate, I must say. and they were all mostly dependent on their traditional ways of managing the shop floor or managing their KPIs, either efficiency or quality, and it was more on a gut feeling or based on the skill and experience of the people. Now that is changing with so much of volatility and the agility which has to be brought into the process. I think the importance of data is very important, and more manufacturing organizations are realizing its importance. Why it is so important to have a real-time visibility of what is happening on the shop floor, capturing the data so that we can analyze the data later on to have understanding on how the machine is behaving, how the operators are working. And this has become a big tool, I must say, to control not only the efficiencies, but also the quality and also safety. So we have been leveraging data quite well in terms of we collect the data from various IoT devices, PLCs, HMIs, and we also observe through various video analytics how the shop floor is working. So it's more of collecting these data from the shop floor and integrating it through IT/OT integration, collecting it on the warehouses, then where we can do various things, starting from basic things like a very descriptive analytics, having a dashboard, giving the OEE, productivity, visibility to the managers, to the shop floor managers, even to the plant managers, and then analyzing the root cause to more kind of advanced analytics where we can collect this data and can be able to predict the failure of the machines, which is exactly the predictive analytics. And I think by all these activities, it is very, very useful in terms of increasing the uptime, reducing the machine failures, increasing the efficiency of the operators, and also increasing the agility. If we can identify and see that some machine is going to get have a downtime in few hours or few days from now, this will be really helpful to adjust in terms of can we change the size, can we change the process so that customer is not affected. So I would say that data is really helping manufacturing and shop floor to a great extent. This has to be leveraged. It has not yet reached to a real potential, and there is a lot of potential which can be tapped in this area. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prashant. I would love to get Irwin's view on this. However, I would first pose a question to Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Jain, and I'll come to Irwin with the same question on data analytics. Sanjeev ji, we have heard about the importance of data analytics, digitalization. My question is slightly different. Could you highlight the potential barriers to adopting digitalization in automotive manufacturing and how they can be overcome? Because some people say it's a destination, it's not a journey, it's a destination, or it's the other way around, or it's a roller coaster ride. So what are the key potential barriers to adopting digitalization?
So I think it's not a roller coaster drive or anything to be there. The basic problem is that the organizations which are there is not that they are the startup companies or they are recently being put into play. The biggest bottleneck is the mindset change of the shop floor employees to really adopt the digitalization part of the things. The moment you go to them and say that I want to integrate your machine with the main ERP so that the dashboarding can be done and the results will be coming to you. They have a lot of apprehensions to that thing that, okay, all my rejections are going to be visible to everybody. They have always, every production guy has some cushion available with them. So they fear that a lot of things will get transparently open to the top management and then they will be issues being coming onto that particular part. So I think so the mindset change has to be brought on to those guys, and that we have done through a lot of trainings to be conducted to them, showing them the real benefit, how the digitalization can really help them solve their day-to-day problems and not creating any issues in their day-to-day working part of it. We brought in a lot of applications to them, whatever manual activities they were doing. So we have brought them onto a workflow-based digital platform so that they don't have to move from their seat to follow and take the paper-based approvals to go for. So that particular things that when we showed them, then they were readily issuing the things to take it forward. We brought up the things that, okay, material availability to you is going to be, as Shreya talked about, that replenishing the inventory onto the shop floor. So people were running around for the material to be brought in. So we have put up a pick and place, pick to light system basically into our system that, okay, the moment new model is coming up, a light glows onto the stores that this particular material is being required on that particular line. So immediately that particular material is moved from that stores automatically to that line. So people doesn't have to run around on that particular thing. So those sort of things, benefits which we give to them, people were very late in the starting. They were having a lot of apprehensions, but when they started getting benefit out of it, that their productivity increased, their OEs were getting improved, the rejections were in control. So I think so adaptability of these all solutions started working, but the current problem, which is majorly there, that a lot of older machines are there into the organization, but the OEMs doesn't open their APIs for integration still with the OT part is a big challenge. Security is another big challenge because these machines are so old and running on such older operating system. You're not able to put any security software over there, and when you're marrying the IT and OT together, the issue of security becomes a major challenge for the IT guys to see that, because today IT system is affected, you can still manage, but if your OT systems are affected, your production lines are going to affect, and that can really bring down the lines at the OEM side of it. These are the major challenges which I think so everybody in the industry who is more than 10 years old also have to look into it, how these things can be taken care by our partners like Belden sitting over here to facilitate the things that there should be some open source sort of things, open source APIs available for connecting all these machines along with the security layer being built up onto top of it, so that the operation teams does not have a fear in their mind that moment I integrate it with the OT, my machines will be down. And these are some important things which I think so if we taken care, people will be very readily adopting the digital platforms going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. You asked made a very interesting point, and which Arvind can address now while answering the question on, of course, the data analytics, but some of the challenges like proprietary protocols and the other technology challenges, how it can be addressed.
Yeah, Manish. So it's been very interesting listening to all the panelists over here with so much of experience in this, right? And when you were talking about the ambassador, it also got me thinking about when I was going to buy a vehicle. I did not like the earlier version of that vehicle. You know, I had certain points in mind, and I wrote an email to the company that I said, I want these particular features to be implemented. And in the next release, the facelift version of that particular vehicle, all the 5 points that I had made were implemented, you know, and I immediately went and booked that car, and I'm still driving it today. You know, so when we talk about digitization, there's so much of data capture. It is not only data capture of what is happening within the plant, but owning a vehicle, right? Especially when we talk about private vehicles, it's an entire lifestyle, it's an entire user experience that the manufacturers are also capturing. And all this data is getting captured somewhere within the organization and it's being put into R&D, is being put into the manufacturing. And that is why there are so many variants available for manufacturing today, which has increased the complexity of the entire manufacturing line, right? The flexibility that needs to be there in the manufacturing line for quickly switching over from one model to the next. So with so much of data available, right? It's so important to be able to extract this data and align it to the manufacturer's KPIs, right? Every shop floor, the shop floor in charge has his own KPIs for the day for him to go back satisfied back home. So, how this data can be captured, extracted, and, presented on digital platforms, is something that's really important, and that's happening today. We want to know OEE parameters. We want to know, as it was said about right from the time someone has punched into the organization, there is a mapping of their skill set to the schedules for the day, right? You also want to be able to map the raw material availability to the manufacturing schedules for the day. You want to map the skill sets to the schedules for the day. So there's so much that requires digitization. At the same time, what we as manufacturers, as OEMs, when we approach various industrial companies, we want to be able to also tell them about how you not only process this data for critical decisions, but then since you're making critical decisions based on this data, it is also important to see how well you can acquire this data, right? How are you going to acquire this gold, this data, with the highest reliability, the highest availability, and the highest security of this data? You were saying, right, data is the new gold, it's the new soil. And if we know the old movies that we used to have, where the train of coal used to go and people would jump on top of the train and start stealing coal from the train, right? So the way the data is acquired is very, very important. So we do not lose data. We do not, we have the highest availability and the highest security for the system as well.
Absolutely. Some of the barriers were mentioned are quite real. I would take two new angles to this. I think one big angle to this is capabilities and talent. Manufacturing is not a glamorous role, and not the best of the talent from B schools and engineering colleges end up on the shop floor. And hence the kind of sharp acumen and aptitude required to generate insights and to make use of the troves of data that the today's connected machines are producing still falls short of the expertise that is required to use it. That's number one. And I think there is significant amount of effort needed from IT companies to train their people, from a lot of other industrial organizations to ensure that the right kind of talent is brought in and stays in manufacturing to build new and innovative use cases. That's number one. The second barrier, in my opinion, is at least in India, is also in some sense legacy systems. We have a lot of legacy machines which were set up in the past, in the times of ambassador production, perhaps. And a lot of those machines over a period of time have moved. A lot of those plants have moved to now using machines that were installed over the last 20 years. Many of them work on proprietary protocol. There is no open framework that allows us to connect legacy machines still. And the awareness and in some ways the proliferation of connectors and data platforms that are required to bring those machines online, collect the data that is required in order to convert our legacy plants into new age model factories becomes a barrier. It's very easy to convert a new age factory into a model factory because all the robots are new, all the machines are connected, there is bandwidth. But when it comes to a plant that was set up in 90s or 80s, there is challenge. There is challenge from the talent perspective, and there is challenge from the infrastructure perspective as well. And that comes in the way of, in some ways, adoption to a certain extent. Back to you, Amish.
Yeah, thanks, Bhuvan. Anshum, I'll come to you with slightly. I'm changing the gears now. I'm using the floor gears, not the hand gears. My question is about since see major trends, if you really look at, is electrification, digitalization, decarbonization. These are some of the major trends driving the industry. My question to you is about how digitalization can enable more sustainable and environmental friendly manufacturing practices, specifically in the automotive sector.
Manish, that's a very, very good question. And I must honestly say that I don't have a very, very good answer. The reason is most of the companies I have seen, these three, that is, you said electrification, digitalization, and decarbonization. To some extent, digitalization and electrification sometimes gets run together. But normally I see a group of people driving decarbonization and another group of people driving digitalization. And it's a challenge to think about how it can be combined. Nevertheless, there are use cases wherein this can be done. Because when it comes to digitalization, we always have to remember digitalization is not limited to a production process or a manufacturing process. Basically, what digitalization helps you do is to collect data and to be able to help you analyze the data in order to make better decisions. So one of the things which we have successfully done, and again, it is not very glamorous, many companies have done it already, is to, in a plant, to combine using the sensors and some of the digital tools and analytics, combine all our utilities into a one common system. So we have a dashboard wherein a facility manager, for example, is able to look at live energy consumption and also the scope 2 emissions. Almost online. Okay, and then the next slow step which we are taking is can the system have some sort of AI capabilities wherein wherein if you see the power consumption because of air conditioning system or because of chilling units go up outside the upper control limit, if I could say, then it kind of zeroes in on which section of the building is consuming a higher power, and as a result that we do something about it. Maybe somebody accidentally set the temperature low. Can we turn off those ACs on its own? Again, a lot of solutions are available. However, I would say we have not gone to an extent where the full capability of digitalization is utilized for at least some of those ESG initiatives. But some of the examples I gave are kind of taking us to that direction.
Barriers to adoption for digitalization and how these can be overcome to achieve business outcomes for the organization.
Yeah, so I think my co-panelists have already elaborated on various barriers, and I completely agree. Like mindset, which was raised by Sanjeev, is very valid because, as I said, that reaching the digitization to the shop floor and changing the mindset of the shop floor to adopt to digitization is one of a big challenge, I would say, but that is changing with when they are seeing the outside environment, how the digitization is generating value in the customer experience area, in the supply chain area, then they are also realizing that why not we should also tap this immense value which is lying untapped on the shop floor. So that is the area which is changing, but it is one of the challenge, and I think that has to be dealt by creating that atmosphere that it is not for having an increasing efficiency for reducing the manpower, but to improving the capacities, improving the quality, and also improving the safety for on the shop floor. So we can remove those barriers. And then, as rightly pointed out, I feel OT security with legacy systems is one of the barrier which is real, and we should really identify what are the legacy systems. And it's not easy, because even if we identify old machineries, old PLCs, which have these limitations of getting connected to IT systems, but huge investment is required. Even after knowing to change a PLC on all the machines is not a decision which anybody can take so easily. So I think these are the barriers. So we should try to find out some of the solutions by which we can get those quick wins to promote the digitization, and getting those output and getting those quick wins convert into a value which could be utilized to further capitalize or further fund these big investments. So this is a cycle, and this will be a slow evolution. And I think we should try to convince the manufacturing leadership that this is for their betterment, and there are small incremental steps which could be taken, and where we can really get the benefit. So this is how what we are trying to do. We are trying to break this digitization into small incremental steps, and we are not saying that you have to spend 50 crores for digitizing your shop floor. We are coming up with a phased wise approach where we can show the value initially with low cost, low complexities, using the low code kind of cloud-based applications, which can give the results without directly having impact on changing the PLCs or changing required to do a huge investment. Then going to the next phase of how we can improve the efficiencies of where we need not to invest a lot, but slightly improving on the machine conditions, like putting the IoT devices which can connect to the IT devices, or which can connect to the cloud-based softwares and can give the results. So my take on this is, let's try to do it step by step, and let's not try to revolutionize so that they get overwhelmed, but to do step by step so that we can improve and also convince them that this is in the best of the interest for the shop floor.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Prashant. Sirisha, I would come to you in terms of these IT/OT integration, because digital transformation is, as Prashant said, these are small steps, and it's an accumulation of all the steps what you do converts into digital transformation. So small wins, IT/OT integration, IT/OT CT, that is control technology integration. Would you like to share some of your experiences on that? And I'll come to Erwin with the same question.
Okay, so coming to IT/OT integration in particular, some of the best cases I would say would be a typical Corona time, maybe even if I have to iterate because it just passed recently. So one such example could be, in a typical shop floor, you have a lot of employees who are going inside the shop floor, coming out during the shift changeover. So practically, when you want to maintain distance, and then you also want to have the swipe in, swipe out happening at the same time, but then you want to have a changeover time in 5 minutes. So we are talking about little time sensitiveness at the same time. And we should have some kind of monitoring mechanism at the same time, even keeping the social distancing. So this kind of use cases in production environment is a combination of IT and OT. I would say, and this need not be very, very sophisticated, because all you are requiring is just a simple face recognition, and then you are transmitting back the data. And then you're also sequencing data to actually give an alert to the end user in terms of simple buzzer, or it could be audio, video, any kind of output device. And then you're allowing the operators to take a decision to move ahead. So I would say those are all, there could be a lot of sophisticated systems, but I would urge that whoever wants to actually develop, it could be actually a very simple one. You see the day in, day out, the difficulties what the shop floor employees are seeing. It could be a simple integration of IT and OT structure. So that is how I would say it.
Yeah, Erwin, Belden is 120-year-old. You're celebrating 121st year now, and you've seen the entire automotive industry right from the beginning. I mean, as Belden, in your view, what are these challenges and how it can be overcome through a systematic integrated approach?
Yeah, Manish. So one thing that we have understood, right, it is challenging. And it's challenging because when we talk about digitization, we are talking about digitization means creating a digital representation of each and every physical object in the plant, right? What is your machine trying to tell you? How are you listening to it? And how are you talking back to that particular device? So that is what is digitization. And, so when we talk about even the scale of implementation becomes extremely big to digitize the entire plant. And you don't only want to digitize the plant with today's demands for on-time delivery of the vehicles and so on. You are also digitizing the entire value chain, right? From knowing when your material is going to be available to you, and when are you going to be able to produce. So these are the challenges that are being faced, and how you map all this digitization to the skill set of the people, as Mr. Lodha also was pointing out, right? The training and the skill set of the people when it comes to digitization. So secondly is also when we talk about, I was recently with another industry, and there was an initiative to digitize certain applications in the flow. But the flow in charge really did not want, that scale of implementation to happen. So as we have a topic over here, right, meeting of the minds. So I think within an organization also, the meeting of the minds on the amount of digitization that needs to happen, matching this to the scale of investment that the organization wants to do, is also something that is creating or making the digitization happen in various phases or in silos, as Mr. Prashant was saying, right? We cannot do everything at once. We want to really see where it's going to have the maximum impact, and what you want to really do first, rather than jumping into the entire process and saying that, okay, let's digitize the entire process. So that's not going to be possible. So a meeting of the minds, I feel, within an organization is also very important to see to what scale of the digitization that is going to happen.
The one question from Siva Kumar from Aisha Motors, which is Royal Enfield division, is what are the future technologies to watch out for in automotive manufacturing? And maybe we'll start with Sirisha, because I saw her photograph with an Enfield recently.
Trending, and also it will continue to trend, will be the digital twin, because that is the most useful tool, I would say, because you're actually able to take decisions from far, and also it gives a lot of data which you can analyze and derive a lot of use cases. I think that is something which is for sure trending.
Okay, Bhuvan, would you like to also take up this question? A couple of technologies which you feel are going to make lasting impact in next 4-5 years, perhaps.
I think AI, of course, is going to make huge impact. AI plus digital twin, AI plus AR, VR, AI plus smart manufacturing, I think will have a huge impact. Right now, because of all the glamorization of AI, all the focus is on customer facing and marketing use cases. But I think there is significant potential in using AI to generate efficiencies of operations. And that is where the dark horse is. That is where AI will shine. And I think that's one technology to track and ensure we get on top of.
Thanks for mentioning it, because there were a couple of questions on this particular aspect about how AI will impact the automotive manufacturing. Anshum, in your view, if you could answer this question on future technologies.
Yeah, I would add just one more or two more, I must say, in addition to what has already been said. One is the additive manufacturing or 3D printing, as it is sometimes called. What we see is it is already being used in prototyping or in maintenance or new product development. However, I believe with the advent of technology and the especially with the metal 3D printing technology becoming more matured, I would say that will also come a little bit mainstream. So that is one which will happen. Other one which usually gets talked about, but not in manufacturing so much. But the important part of manufacturing is the supply chain, and I believe blockchain is the other one. It's too early to talk about blockchain in supply chain manufacturing, though it is being used a little bit. However, since supply chains are becoming more and more complex and critical, it may take a little longer to mature, but that's the other technology which probably will shape the future of supply chains in manufacturing.
Interesting, very interesting view. Prashant ji, your views on?
Yeah, so I think all what is mentioned is very relevant, and especially in terms of using data analytics and AI on the shop floor in every aspect will be on forefront. And as I said, that it is still a low-hanging fruit which should be leveraged. And other than that, not specifically from digitization point of view, but because electrification is one of the trend which is picking up in automotive industry, and also the connected cars. So everything related to these ultimately leads that if we have a connected car or electrification, then the technology around it has to be there. And when we talk about electrification, or then the expectations of the customer in terms of noise, and especially if I talk about tires, then the manufacturing around that, because there is no noise of the engine, then how can we make a tire noiseless? So these are the areas where we are focusing, and technology is going to help us in terms of if we are able to collect the data from the shop floor in terms of and simulation, what digital twin somebody was mentioning. I think that will be really helpful, so that we can have these efficiencies while designing the components, that they can cater to these very high-end requirements which are coming as a part of electrification, electric vehicles or connected vehicles.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Arvind, if you allow me, I'll ask this question to Gaurav, if you allow me.
Oh yeah, please go ahead. He's the right guy anyways.
Yeah, Gaurav.
I think mixed reality is also something which I feel enables teams or workforce located in different places to collaborate and share in virtual environment. People can interact with virtual objects while communicating in real time, in operating some machineries as well. So I think mixed reality is a technology which is to look forward to as well.
There is one very. Would you like to add something to it, Irvin? Yeah.
No, I'm good. But also on what was being said about AI, right? So the base for AI is always going to be data acquisition, data analytics, and that's how AI would take its decisions. So the core of the digitization again is very, very critical to start moving into these new technologies. We're already seeing a lot of AI into the automotive segment. We are seeing, as was also being said, about connected cars. I was reading an article the other day about a collision avoidance system that is being built into cars, for which you need to have that kind of a medium built into the vehicles itself, where cars would automatically take care of collision avoidance, which is being used in other areas of industrial automation. So AI is definitely playing a very big role, but still with the base of data acquisition and data analytics.